Hi everybody, my name is Emily and I'm one of the designers with the Quilted Cow, and today I'm here to show you the bonus That project from the October subscription box. It is called the Susie Satchel. First though, let's thank our sponsors. We're sponsored by Creative Grids Cutters, Mats, and Rulers, and we are also sponsored by Husqvarna Viking Machines. Let's get started. All right, so this is the Susie Satchel, and it is the bonus That project for the October subscription box. It is used with the extra fabrics that came in the fabric kit. You can make this with, if you've made the topper, or you can make it if you made the ollie tote. So there's enough fabric left over to be able to get this satchel out of it. It is the perfect little satchel to either put in the tote or carry your notions with you wherever you want to go. What we have are some little pockets in here that are perfect for credit cards or for notions. I've got some needles in here, some scissors, and I actually have my credit card that I'm going to put back in my pocket now. So this little satchel, it does have just the basic strap enclosure, so you don't have to worry about zippers, snaps, anything like that. It makes it super easy to throw in whatever you need to throw into this. Close it up and stick it in your tote or your satchel or whatever you want to carry it in. So I really like this project. If you would like to get one, once again, the pattern will be included in your subscription box. There's enough fabrics there to do that from your subscription box. Or you can head on over to our website, grab yourself a kit. The kit is going to include all of the fabric and the fusible fleece that you're going to need for this project. The pattern will be sold separately. So make sure you grab the pattern and yourself a kit, and we can get started sewing on this. So I've got a piece cut out of the flap fabric. This is the back fabric. And then this is the front fabric. So I've got those pieces cut out. And so that takes care of the flap, the back, and also this front right here. So I've got all those cut out. Now, whenever I piece this together, whenever I sew this together, I want to make sure that that flap is going to be right side up. Then flip that flap upside down and piece it together like this, so that whenever you piece it together and then whenever it flips over onto the front of the bag, it is right side up. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. So you're going to piece this to the top of the back of the bag, and then you're going to piece this to the bottom of the back of the bag. Make sure your right sides are together. Once you've got that piece together, you're going to press it open. And I like to press the seams open on this one just because I think that they're a little prettier. They lay a little bit nicer. So I press the seams open on this, and then we're going to grab our fusible fleece and we're going to fuse that to the wrong side of this panel here. So I've got my fusible fleece here. Get these out of the way. Now, when I press the fusible fleece, the bumpy side is the glue side, so make sure that you keep that bumpy side up off of your ironing surface, and you cover it with the wrong side of the fabric. All right, so now we're finished with the outside of the satchel. Pretty quick and easy, right? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our strap. So we've cut our strap to the size that we want it, and see here. So we're going to press it in half lengthwise, and then we're going to open it up, press one long raw edge in towards the middle, press the other long raw edge in towards the middle, and then once again press it again in half lengthwise so that it's all enclosed, all those raw edges are enclosed. And it does make about a 1-inch wide strap. So once we've done that, we're going to top stitch down both edges of this strap, which I've already done here. And then we're going to go ahead and put this on the outside of the satchel. So whenever we do that, let me grab my larger ruler. Makes it a little bit easier whenever I have a larger ruler. So I'm going to measure 6.5 inches down from the top, down from the flap end of the bag. But I'm going to base this down 1/8 inch seam allowance along the sides here just to make sure that that stays where I want it to be. So let me get that basted down and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got that basted down, and now I'm going to set this to the side because that's all I need to do with it for right now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our little Notions credit card holder pockets for the lining. And in order to do that, I've cut out my piece that I need, and I've drawn lines on the back side of it. Now, you can use a friction pen, a heat erasable marker, you can use a pencil, whatever you want to use. I do prefer the heat erasable markers, that way the marks do disappear whenever I press these. However, you want to be careful that you don't press the whole thing whenever you're pressing each and every individual fold on this, because your lines are going to disappear and you're going to lose all your measurements. So the pattern is going to tell you exactly what distance each one of these needs to be apart from each other. So measure off the last line you drew on that, not from the end again, because you'll never come out with the right measurements. So we're going to go ahead and fold this. It's going to be kind of like a fan fold, an accordion fold, however you want to call it. And I like to use my hot ruler for this because it makes it so much easier. So the first fold is going to be a pretty side out fold. The last fold is going to be a pretty side out fold. So if you don't have those pretty sides out on the first and last folds, go back and figure out your folds again. So all I'm going to do now is get that to fold back on the lines that I've pressed. And you may notice that you've got a little extra of the fabric under there. If you want to, you can just line up that last one. It's not going to make a huge difference there. And then just give it a nice, good press. Get it all nice and flat all the way across. And if you want to, you can always come from the back side as well. Get that nice and pressed flat. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our lining piece. And we are going to put this on the bottom of the lining piece. So we've got this cut out. These are going to be the same width this time. So we want to make sure that everything matches up. So if you put it on the wrong way and it's not matching up on the edges, turn your lining or turn the Notion holder until it lines up correctly. And then we're just going to line that up, raw edges along the bottom. I like to give it a little clip here. And a little clip here. And then go ahead and base this down 1/8 of an inch seam allowance along the bottom. And then once you've got that done, go ahead and base the sides so that everything stays where you want it to be. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and divide this in half. So we're going to come in and halfway across. You're just going to once again, you can use a friction pen to make this mark. You can use a chalk marker to make this mark. Whatever you want to use to make this mark, you're just going to come in and mark that middle. So once you've got the sides and the bottom basted down, you're going to come up and go ahead and backstitch at the top and the bottom here and sew that divider line right there. So that's going to make sure that your cards and everything stitched down, those little pockets, those card pockets, Notion pockets, whatever you want to use them for, they're all stitched down right there in the middle. All right, so once we get that finished, then we're going to go ahead and add in the other piece of lining. And that's going to be right here. And I've gone ahead and sewn this together already. So this is going to be the front side of the lining. This is going to be the flap side of the lining. So that's actually how it lays in there, just like that. Once you get that sewn on, then it's time to put this whole thing together. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these right sides together. And I like to do a little curve on the corners of my bag. If you want to do a curve on the corners of your bag, grab something you can make a curve with. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a ruler and I'm going to measure 3 3/4 inches down from the top, down from the flap end. So just make a little mark. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sew all the way around, 1/4 inch, all the way around, backstitching at the beginning and end where these lines are. And then that's all I'm going to put together for right now. And then whenever I get back, I'll show you how to put the rest of the bag together. So let me get these stitched down and I'll be right back. So I realized after I got over there that I forgot to reclip the top of it. Go ahead and make sure you reclip the top of it and keep everything together the way it should be. That way you don't accidentally, have the lining fold over or anything on you while you're sewing it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the bottom of these, match the raw edges here. Once again, yes, I know they're not the same length. It will be okay. So I'm going to take this, match these raw edges, and just sew a 1/4 inch all the way across, but I'm going to leave about a 2 to 2.5 inch opening here in the middle of this seam. So if you want to measure that out, if you want to mark it out, whatever, about 2 to 2.5 inches, whatever you're comfortable with. 2 inches really works pretty well. So straight across, back stitch here, stop stitching, back stitch again at the beginning of the stitch line again, and then straight across to the edge. Don't go up the sides or anything, just right across that edge. I'll be right back with showing you what that looks like. Okay, so now that we've got the flap sewn, and this is actually this part of the bag right here is this seam right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate out the outer bag from the lining, and we're going to stitch those together the way that we need to. So the lining's pretty easy because it's got that notion holder, the little card holder. And so we've got this seam allowance that we're going to work with. And what you're going to do is you're going to line up and just flatten that out, smooth that out, and clip it right down where the seam allowance is, where it meets with that seam that we just sewed. Once again, on this side, we're just going to clip that. So this is the lining right here. Now we've got the outer bag, and we have this seam allowance here that we're going to reference off of. So I'm just going to fold that over and line that up all the way down to where that the seam allowance is for the lining to meet the outer of the bag. I'm going to clip that. And clip that, and make sure whenever we do this that we've got kind of a flat edge about 1 inch into where that strap is, so that it's not sticking out one side or the other. It's nice and flat right there. So what I've got now is kind of a T with the flap end on the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at this end and work my way towards the middle. I'm going to stop where this seam is, where everything meets there, the one that we just sewed with the opening in it. I'm going to stop right there, do a little back stitch, come back, start from the other side, work my way in, and keep doing that on all 4 of these little edges that we need to sew together. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come back and show you what that looks like in just a moment. All right, so I have now sewn down each of these sides, backstitch here, left the seam allowance out of what I was sewing. But the last thing I need to do now is finish out the seams along the top side. So I'm just going to take these and finish sewing all the way down to where everything meets right here. And once again, backstitch right there just to reinforce that, make sure everything stays together. Let me do that real quick, and then I'll show you what that looks like, and we'll finish out this bag real quick. So now that I have all my seams sewn, what I want to show you is that the lining seam, or the lining actually lines up with the outer bag part. So whereas it was a good 1/2 inch shorter, it's no longer that much shorter, but it's going to fit inside of the outer bag a lot easier. One of the things that's going to help make sure that everything fits okay is we're going to clip some corners. So I'm just going to take this and make sure that I don't clip into my stitching, but get rid of a little bit of bulk out of that corner right there. Same thing out of that one. This is the lining side, the one with the notion pocket and everything. I am going to trim down just a little bit on the outside of the bag corners. And I'm just cutting at an angle, making sure that I don't clip through the stitches. That's the important part. And then the last part is to go ahead and you can trim down a little bit of this curve if you would like. You can also come along and do a little snip in here just to make sure that we don't have too much bulk going on. However you want to trim this curve, it's just going to lay a lot nicer, a lot flatter if it doesn't have a whole lot of extra fabric that it's got to try to fold up in there. So get rid of this bits, and then we're going to find our opening that we left. I'm going to clip those threads that I used to bridge that gap. And we're going to turn this right side out through this opening. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is whenever we push this lining down in, where the seam allowance on the sides of the lining are going to go. And the reason for that is I found that if they fold to the back of the bag, then your notion holders, these little pockets, they get really, really wrinkly. So I'm just going to grab my fingers, go in and fold them towards the front. And as we poke the corners down where they need to go, everything's going to kind of smooth out nicely. But for some reason, I found that if they're folded in towards the front, those pockets stay a little bit flatter. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press this, and then we're going to talk about top stitching all the way around. So let me give this a good press. All right, and then the little opening that we've got here, just going to, let me scoot over here. Just going to fold that in, and then I will give this a good press too, just to get this nice and flat. Now the only part that I'm going to top stitch now is going to be around the flap and across the front of the bag. Let me get a couple of threads trimmed. So around the flap and across the front of the bag, and that's going to close that opening that you use to turn the bag inside out or right side out. And I'm going to start just on this side of the opening and then cover up the opening first, just to make sure that everything stays in place. If you need to, grab yourself a clip and just clip that together, if that helps, so that whenever you're lining everything up, you're just going to start sewing and pull that clip whenever you need to. Now take it nice and slow whenever you're doing this. Don't be in too big of a rush because you do need to go around a couple of corners. And just 1/8 of an inch top stitch. All right, so I just want to show you as I come up to this first corner here, the way it's going to work. I'm going to go straight down the corner about 1/8 of an inch beyond where that seam is, and then work my way up the flap. So you'll notice now the strap is on the back side. Just flip that over to the front. We've got our strap, we've got our flap to close over it. And once again, this is called the Susie Satchel. It is the bonus That project in the October subscription box. If you missed it or you haven't seen it yet, check out the Ollie tote. And then there was also a table topper that we did in this subscription box. So we will go ahead and link to those videos in the description box below. Check those out, see what we've got going on. If you want one of these kits and you didn't get a subscription box, head to our website. The kit is going to include all of the fabric and the fusible fleece that you're going to need to make the Susie Satchel. Grab that kit, grab the pattern because it's not included in the kit. So make sure you get the pattern as well. Check that out at the website, in our stores, wherever you find a quilted cow. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe to our videos. That way we can keep bringing you more content. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Okay, you wicked cool quilters, good job. You made it to the end. We would like to thank our sponsors, Husqvarna Viking Sewing Machines, Creative Grids, rulers, rotary cutters, and mats, and Wilmington Prints for the beautiful fabrics. Thanks for watching.